connections in one day. That's unheard of. Guy's on a cyclone over there. His motorcycle says cyclone on the side of it. It's the Live Drive Jive Archive with your host, Frank Monday. Some people are wondering what I've got on top of my hat, and they've been asking, hey, what are those things on top of your hat? And I'm like, well, it's just it's an ear warmer. They're ear muffs. Do you wear earmuffs in the wintertime? The reason I like the earmuff in the wintertime is because it's Twilight Zone Old Peking, Central Kingdom of the Celestial Dragon. Frank Monday, Monday through Friday on the Morning Grind edition. They keep the wind out of your ears. So if you've made it this far, the 83rd day of the 100-day magical challenge, then you're really an initiate at this point, right? Even if you've missed a day here and there, right? I'd say if you've missed one day in 10, you still qualify as a participant in the 100-day magical challenge. Hey, Paradox Fossil, long time no see. How you been doing, good my good man? What have you been up to out there in Happy Land? Have you been getting it done, man? Getting your magical action on, shaking your wand, and letting everybody know that you know the truth of life, that it generates dynamic force straight from the Godhead all the way down the tree of life and into the prime material plane where you, sir, dwell amongst the shadows and colored dust as a luminous being, a luminous spiritual being, ensouled, right? There's a guy out here over on the right cracking his whip. I'm going to see if I can get a look at it. Where's he at? I can hear him. That's a that's a Chinese hobby that they have here in northern China. They have this long, like bull whip with a with like a half a meter long, like a foot and a half long of steel chain on the end of it, and so it's a braided whip with like a with wire running through the center of it. So they're really heavy, and they got a steel handle. And these old guys will get like several of these whips. They collect them and they practice with them in the morning, and they'll get out into like a an abandoned parking lot and crack that whip over and over and over again. And if you're walking by in the early morning or late night or something, and you walk and you hear that whip crack, it sounds like a pistol firing almost, or like a firecracker going off or something. But when you get up near it, it can be extremely loud, like dynamite loud. Yeah, just whack, whack, pop. And I got out there one time and I talked to one of the old guys that, because they're everywhere, like all over any place where there's like a highway or something, or under a bridge or an abandoned parking lot, they'll hang out and practice their whip. And so I've been out there a few times to talk to the guys that play with the whips and give a try at it, try my hand at it. And I kind of got the technique down one night. I'd been drinking some beer, and I played with it for about 20 or 30 minutes and kind of got the feel for it. But I realized that if you make a mistake swinging that thing, because it's long and heavy and dangerous. And if you accidentally let that whip come back and hit you after cracking it or use the wrong technique, it could kill you. You if it landed a temple strike or a jowl strike or something, or even ribs, like ribs, I mean, you probably just break a rib. But if it hit you in the head, you definitely end your own life. And I thought, yeah, this is for the advanced, sober among us. Yeah, because at the time I had been drinking a little. I don't drink anymore at all, hardly. Just occasional tipple here and there, like once or twice a year. But back then, I'd have my regular couple of beers on the weekend or something. But yeah, I respect the guys who do it. I mean, once you get the technique down, you're pretty safe. You're smart enough. You're not going to smack yourself with the whip. But that's an item. The steel whip, especially the long ones, they're heavy and big and dangerous. That's an item that you don't want to make any mistakes when you're practicing. I've practiced with a smaller steel whip, a chain whip. They're the 9 section and 7 section whips that we use in Kung Fu. And even one of those motherfuckers, you don't want to make any real mistakes with. But I've hit myself with the smaller steel whip, and you could shatter like your what this is a zygomatic. This one, the bone above the brow bone. What is that called? I forget the scientific name, but I hit myself in the back of the head one time, and it drew blood, like it split the skin and left a little egg on the back of my head. And I thought, yeah, fuck, you got to be real careful. So typically in martial arts, when you train with those whips, they don't use they don't use combat level ones. They'll use ones made out of thin, lighter metal, and they'll wrap the end because it's got a heavy weight on the end, and they'll wrap the end in like medical tape to prevent it from shattering your skull when it hits you accidentally in the noggin. What is this guy doing? Wow, that was weird. There was a big industrial truck stopped in the middle of the road. He had his hazards on, but it didn't. There wasn't anything going on. Maybe the engine died or something. But for like flourishes and attractiveness in doing your kung fu practice, the steel whip is a very attractive weapon. It's known as one of the soft weapons in Chinese martial arts. There are a collection of soft, hard, long, short weapons. There are 18 classical weapons in Kung Fu training. Wow, I've hit every red light on this road today. That's kind of unusual. I don't typically. I think they have the pattern on the red lights changed today to make me hit every single fucking one, intentionally thwarting me, holding me back. Yeah, so there are 18 classical weapons, and each one trains a spiritual power. And some of the soft weapons are like the steel dart. It's a steel dart on the end of a rope, and you learn to swing the rope around the body and then kick it out with your foot and stuff. And the 9 section steel whip is one of the soft weapons, and soft meaning that it's pliant, even though it's a whip made out of steel. That would seem hard, right? But no, it's classified as a soft weapon, and it's the most advanced. That and the rope dart are the most advanced weapons in Chinese kung fu, and the 3 section staff for and then any type of dual weapon wielding are the most advanced of the traditional weapons because they require the highest level of coordination, agility, dexterity, and fluidity and alertness in using them. You once that weapon's in motion, you can't take your chi, your e. We call it the e, the intention. You can't let your e slack for even a moment, because if you do, you can lose control of it, and it will attack you. It's like a scorpion's tail swinging about. Very dynamic, very fluid, beautiful to watch. A trained practitioner, um, someone a novice like myself. Wow, this guy's just pulling into my lane. You're on Plum Blossom Lane, where the old wizard wanders, mumbling inane, hobbling on his cane. Whew! There's a lot of action there, a lot of kung fu action going on in my mind right now with the first swirlings. I think the rope dart would probably be up there among. Like if you put it on the tree of life and pigeonholed it, it would be up there like among the three supernals. It would be on the chasm of the abyss, and you really need to have a high level of training. Um, I never tried my hand at it until I was probably like my second decade in my kung fu career. I wanted to when I was young, but I knew that I needed to master the basics of kung fu training before I started training with the chain whip. You don't have to though. I've seen little kids that they build these plastic ones now, with a sufficient amount of weight, and they're not at all dangerous. I mean, they're dangerous, but they're not going to hurt you if it wraps around your neck and smacks you in the face. It's not gonna do any permanent damage. And so I've seen little kids wield dual chain whips in wushu training with just a level of um beauty that is just mind blowing. I love to watch it. I love to watch kung fu. 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds that really got at it and trained in the temple and stuff, or at a good wushu school. Wushu is different than kung fu training, though, per se. Like wushu is a kind of kung fu, but kung fu is not wushu. Wushu is the gymnastic, artistic, kind of almost dance like performance of Chinese kung fu. And it's the one where they really move fast and fluid, and they're not really generating the energy that would be required in combat, and their movements aren't really addressing combat situations. Some of them are mock like combat moves, and it looks like a battle ready type art. But if you stepped in and like an MMA guy battled against a wushu guy, the wushu guy would get broken in half at the first little touch, right? Because they train their muscles um, for basically like dance performances. They're not training to do battle, and they're not battle ready and hardened, and they don't know the techniques of actual combat. And so if you got a boxer or someone else to walk in there, and that guy would be out there doing all of his flourishes and jumping through the air, and the the uh the karateka or whatever boxer would get in there and kick him one time and he'd be finished, you know. But that's not the point of wushu. The point of wushu is performance art, and so I like it. I enjoy watching it, but I never really trained it. I did a couple of summers. When I first came here to Beijing, I went to their top wushu performance school, and I knew a British girl named Rose who was a like full-time student there. She had paid for like 3 years of tuition or something, and she lived there at the dormitories. And I would go and train every Saturday with her for like, I don't know, maybe 2 years in a row, like when I had free time. And I'd show up every Saturday and practice wushu routines with her, and teach her some of the basics of kung fu fighting style, right? The actual legitimate sanda is what we call it. It's kind of like the Muay Thai training of Chinese kung fu. Now, that's the kung fu that really puts the lead in the pencil. I'm gonna hide out here under the willow tree, have myself a JP Farrell, and chat at you guys for 10 minutes before I got to get into the office. You see, even though we're 10 minutes late, we're still 10 minutes early. And that's the way Frank Monday rolls, man. Especially now that I'm in a position of leadership at the academy I work at. I need to start shaving regular, man. If the boss wanders by and sees me growing a beard, he might be like, hey, what the fuck's going on in here? You think it's winter or something? Hanging out in here growing a beard? Did you get a shave? I can't grow a really patriarchal beard anyway. I've got some patchiness, and I've just never had I've never had the cojones, the testosterone, the level of manliness to grow a beautiful beard. I wish I could. How's your beard, Paradox Fossil? Are you able to grow a truly magnificent fatherly beard? I admire guys who can. You got to be out there chopping wood and shit daily, you know. You got to be chopping lumber and feeding a wood burning stove, and using your bushcraft knife to skin a deer. Yeah, you finally started to get one. Yeah. You got to be, my brother at 16 could grow a beautiful beard, and his like the beard part on the side of his thing from like his what are they called? Sideburns would swirl into like whirls on the side of his head, and he could grow a beard, but he was a giant man, he was one of those creatures endowed like a Sasquatch. He grew to like 6'2", 6'3", was averaged anywhere from 200 to 400 pounds. Could, by 17 years old, he was benching 375, out in the garage. He looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but better looking. By the time he was 18, 19, and it's just unreal and good at martial arts, flexible. He finally worked himself into the splits. He was able to do the splits by the time he was like 20. Because we didn't get any formal training in gymnastics when we were young. We did lots of martial arts training, but nobody like karate, taekwondo. Taekwondo more got you doing splits a little bit, but I never got it good at the splits. I never broke that tendon stretch so that I could get into full splits. It was never one of my goals either, though. I'm like, when will that ever be practical in a combat situation? So some of it's just fancy performance art stuff, but it's fun. We do, even in martial arts, you'll do some like ballet style training and stuff. Oh, hey, Frater Marlowe's out there in the chat. Good to see you, Frater Marlowe. Charles, how are you, sir? Hope you're doing well. Just yesterday and the day before, I was able to connect to the VPN, and there's a rare treat. I haven't been able to get the laptop or the desktop to connect again, but the cell phone, I updated it, and for some reason, like I updated everything, I made sure everything was paid up and stuff, and it's not regular yet. Like I spent about 30 minutes this morning hitting the button, try to get it to connect, but now it's connected, and hopefully maybe next month after October they'll start opening up the VPNs again. We've got a connection right now though, so that's awesome. But I haven't been able to check emails and shit. So Paradox Fossil can grow a beard, and Charlo says that he can grow a beard as well. Yeah, I've never had the testosterone levels to. I don't know what it is, right? I mean, maybe it's part of it's genetic, but like I said, my brother could grow a beautiful beard, but I've never been able to do it. Now we got exactly about 10 minutes before I got to go into the office. So, you guys got anything you need to report? Any updates from Happy Land that are essential? How's everything going where you guys are? I think Marlo, you're in British Columbia, right? The BC area seems like that's correct. Or Nova Scotia, maybe. Paradox Fossils in the USA. Good man. So you're enjoying El Presidente and his ice cream fiascos, the ice cream party. It's kind of like being back in kindergarten with that guy, huh? You're like, let's get out the rainbow colored ABCs and play a little duck duck goose with El Presidente, have a little chocolate chip, you know, make sure his diaper's clean. What a disaster, huh? Those guys are um, so so beyond the scope of what's rational. Imagine if it was anybody else, the type of lampooning and the torture they would receive at the hands of the liberal media, um, the Marxist media, I guess. Kanye West came out and said some pretty interesting and fun shit the other day, right? I think his name is now canceled. So I'm not even sure if you're allowed to say Kanye West. I don't even know who he is. Seems like he was married to a Kardashian at one point. The celebritas, the the nouveau aristocracy. Yeah, he gets really stoned. I think he enjoys that. California folks, they really like to smoke their weed. They've been smoking that grass since the days of the Tavistock Institute and the swag that came across the border. They don't smoke it like the Northern Cali guys do, man, with Humboldt and British Columbia. Yeah, I think he's a musician. Seems like he's an R&B guy or something. I don't know. I don't pay attention to it. You just their names make such a hubbub in the media when they do or say something. So he's accusing the UEUs in Hollywood. Yeah, just a quick Google search would probably let you know what's going on with them. But from what I understand, his handlers were kind of hard on him and said that they launched a media campaign to question his sanity because he had flopped and he likes more conservative and traditional ideas. Contrad, is that what they're called? Conservative, traditional conservative or conservative traditional, which is not what any of those guys represent. It's all so mired in endless human opinion and subterfuge that none of it points to what it says that it's supposed to point to. And all of the language has been so obfuscated and turned around that it really is the highest levels of clown world and the upside down or whatever. And so black is white and white is black and nah, it's also mired in deceit and treachery that there's no way to even kind of sort through it anymore and make sense of it. So here on the Frank Monday channel, we've just chosen to ignore all of it and talk about magic. So if you're here as a paranormal researcher, a magical practitioner, wizard, warrior, wanderer, and wayfarer alike, you are welcome. But if you're looking for the dailies, I've given up on that because they gave me so many community strikes and shut me down so many times, and they've got me walking on eggshells that, you know, it's impossible to even open your mouth on the ideas anymore. And thus I think I'm suspicious that 90% of everyone is losing interest in it because you're not going to actively self censor all the time when it comes to your opinion about this, that, or the other thing and the daily events in life. And so if you can't speak freely on the topic, then you're just going to ignore it. I mean, you've got to be truthful and honest and speak from the heart, or then you're just like them. You're just a liar and a deceiver, and you're a charlatan working at all these various stratagems. And I kind of agree with Frank Sinatra that you're really every time you mention their names, whoever they are, these celebritards and pseudo aristocracy and stuff, you're just polishing their shoes. There's a Norwegian guy. I think he's in Denmark or something, and he grows a long beard and he does bushcrafting and he goes out fishing and stuff. And I'll listen to him talk on the ideas sometimes because he basically sums up the ideas and what's going on, like what they're up to, like, and talks about the events and stratagem, but he never mentions the names. And I think that's the way to go about it. And if I paid enough attention to all of the dailies, then that's the way I would talk about it. I think that's a noble way to give. What is his name? It's like he has a very strange Norwegian name. But if you guys know who I'm talking about, maybe you can tell me his name. It starts with an M, and it's like Monogru or Morgogru or what is that name? Wow, it's so like the first time I saw it, it seemed so foreign to me, and it rang of like you know the old Norse gods and Scandinavia, and that's the kind of accent he has too. If you guys know who I'm talking about, please put his name in there because he's worth listening to. He does a couple of videos a week and he lives off the grid. I'm not sure what his whole thing is. I think he's kind of an artistic guy, but he's a bear of a man. You know, he's got a giant beard and he does bushcrafting. I think he started his channel. It was all about bushcraft. And then when the whole Grim Fandango launched off back there at the end of 2019, he started talking about prepping a little bit and being prepared for the future. And then, the whole kind of dark vortex of what these guys are up to pulled him in a little bit. And he started mentioning some, yeah, Monsieur Marlowe, I got to go too, man. I've run out of time. I really wanted to remember that guy's name before I signed off for today, but have a great day, man. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Paradox Fossil, if you guys have a moment to join me in prayer. Holy art thou, Lord of the universe, the vast and the mighty one, creator of heaven and earth, maker of all things, visible and invisible, master of the light and of the darkness. We adore thee and we invoke thee. Send us one of your spiritual agents, divine, holy guardian angels, to guide and protect us, to protect and guide us through the innumerable snares of the earthly sphere, and a cleansing wind to disperse all negativity and the endless. I just knocked my Bluetooth out. I got a little too fired up on that one. And the endless human opinion, which threatens to mire the subtle truth in nearly to the point that it is unrecognizable. But Lord, we humble ourselves so that we might recognize your great teaching and make us strong and give us fortitude that we might embrace the teaching and have us know those things which we should know and make us ever vigilant to fulfill our function in life, right? And help out and do what you can. Open a door for a beautiful gal that's walking by and say hello to an old folk and help an old lady across the street. As the Boy Scouts say, do a good turn daily, right? And be prepared, right? That's the Scout oath, the Scout motto. A Scout is all those things: healthy, right, gracious. Um, what are all the words? Honest. I can't remember them all, man. I'm a little bit old for scouting, but Eagle Scout till we die, right? I will see you good looking sexy people in the abodes of the future. As above, so below, and keep doing good magic, man. Please hit the thumbs up and come back later and comment on the video because that's what I'm really here for. I'm here for the interaction of community and talking to you guys later on comments and stuff like that. That's really what that's really the value of the channel, is building community among folks. If you're an internet tourist, though, good to see you and thanks for stopping by. And I will see everyone on the next transmission. Until then, good magic.